Alrighty, well now part two. I'm going to paint this thing. I'm going to apply some textures to it. Now I won't be completely painting it as it would look in a final product. I'm going to show you some of the basics of painting, and then you're going to have to run with it and put your time and effort into it. I've built this now many times in many classes, but the steps are pretty straightforward. We're going to still be on the paint terrain button up here in the terrain component of this terrain that we're working on, paint terrain. And we're going to change from razor lower terrain. We're going to change to paint texture. When we change to paint texture, a lot of stuff's still going to look the same. We still got all these brushes right here. But if we scroll down a little bit, you'll find a spot called layers. If layers is not open, open it up. When you open it up, you'll see that your layer palette is currently, the list is empty. To add a layer, you'll click add layer. And when you click add layer, you'll get a window showing you all your layers. Now this very first texture that I select is going to get applied to the entire terrain. Then every texture after that, I'll be painting that texture on. So I want to think, okay, what do I want most of this to look like? And I'll go with, for this one, pebbles. And in the layer properties of pebbles, just to kind of try to make it look better, because I know that Pebbles, its tiling setting is set so small, 1 and 1, it's kind of really hard to see what it looks like. But I'll change the normal scale to like 1.5, and I will set the tiling to like 10 and 10 for X and Y. And almost immediately, it starts to get a bit of a better look to it. If I enter play mode real quick to see how this is looking, you can see, okay, yeah, it does look very lined, but it's got some variation to the texture, and you should be every now and then play testing to see how things are looking. Now that basically applied that whole texture to the entire terrain. What I'm going to click now is add layer, and I'm going to quickly add like the grass, and I'll add layer, and I'll add the snow, and I'll add layer, and maybe that tidal pool, and I'll add another layer, and maybe muddy terrain, and add another layer, maybe the rock terrain. And now that I've done that, I've got a bunch more layers that I could pick from. Here is where, like, okay, grass. I'm going to paint the middle of my map grass. So I'll set my brush size to like 200 looks good. And I'm going to use one of these brushes that's kind of like soft on the edges, but full in the middle. Set my brush strength for this paint, for the painting of this. I'm going to set the brush strength to like 0.8. So I can even get in there and just put 0.8 right there for my brush strength. You want the brush strength pretty strong for painting. And then I can click. If I want to focus on this area that I'm looking at, I can hit the F key to focus on it. Start to paint up on my hillsides a little bit here. Now that kind of takes care of like the green valley that I want right here. I could also decrease my brush size down to kind of a smaller size, like maybe 15 or 20, maybe 20 or 30 actually. It really changes quick here. So to color in this valley, and I'm going to press my F key to frame in on that valley so I can see it very carefully, so I can really try to and brush and strokes. If you did all of that, if you did all of that in just one brush and you make a big mistake, then Control Z to undo. That's your typical way to get out of undoing. But you might end up, if you're not brushing in strokes, you have to undo a whole lot and like start all over again. That can be very frustrating. So brushing in strokes can be can and is highly recommended when you start to approach how you want to paint your textures in here. All right. So got some nice green areas here. Now I'm going to switch my brush to my snow brush and mouse over that peak over there and hit F to frame on it. And with it framed on it, I will click on this peak and apply some snow to this thing. Might bring my brush size down to like 25. Smaller brush will give me a little more control over how this paint applies up here on these peaks. And I have to use my Alt and my left click button a whole lot to rotate around and make sure that I'm getting good coverage on the areas that I want to get the snow applied here. All right. And then another big peak right over here. I'll mouse over it so I can see my brush, press F. That zooms me in on it. The middle mouse wheel out so that I can that's looking pretty good. Press the F key to zoom on that peak. F to zoom on that. Oop, got the wrong peak. Zoom all the way across the map. Bless you, Matthew. Press F to zoom. There we go. That's the mountain I want to be focused on here. And these peaks are really, they're peaky. So I'm going to drop my size of my brush down to like 15, just so I can try to not have too much going down the sides of the mountains here. Because even with a size 15 brush, ooh, and I just caught that off in the distance over there, right in that spot. If I frame select it, I accidentally threw down some white paint. So I'll switch back to my grass and just go back in there and just touch that up. Make sure I don't leave that lying around. And then I might create something like, let's see, I'll add a new layer. I like that layer right there, that dirt layer. Put that up at about 34. And then let me see here. Right over here, I might start to put my my high desert. And again, I'm doing this, painting this in strokes. I'm unclicking my mouse and then clicking my mouse. I don't want to get too much nice. Has some variety there. Oops, Control Z. Frame. All right. So that's the long and short of painting. You have to add texture layers, set your brush size, and get busy.